What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, back in Standard, and we're visiting a list that I come up with during the early access event that was focused around Drana, the Last Bloodchief. It's a pretty sweet card here. 5 mana, 4/4 Legendary Vampire Cleric. And whenever you go to combat, specifically when you attack with her, your defending player has to choose a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard, and you get to return the card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. So we're basically just trying to discard, do some self-discard, get some beefy creatures in our own yard, and force our opponent to give us something really sweet with it. So we are running all 4 copies, even though she is legendary, because we want to see her all the time. And especially since we're a little bit slower to actually add to the board with our own creatures, it tends to make our opponent's removal that much better, and so there's a good chance the first one just dies to a removal spell. So we're in all 4 copies, just make sure you have like a backup, and we see it as consistently as possible, because the deck is built around her. So starting off here, we have 2 Malakir Rebirths. It can be a land, or it can be a way to protect our Drana. We do lose 2 life, but we get to keep our creature back on the battlefield. 3 Spikefield Hazard, kind of the same thing here with a land that can also be a spell here, doing 1 damage to any target. Scoot Swarm, Lotus Cobra, there's plenty of 1 toughness creatures that you might want to deal with here in the early turns, and exiles them instead, so a nice little bit of upside there. 4 Thrill of Possibility, and 2 Tormenting Voice. Basically filling the same slot here, but of course Thrill of Possibility being able to do it instant speed, and discarding a card to draw 2 cards. Like I said, we're obviously trying to put some bigger, beefier creatures in our graveyard that we can get back with our Drana. So obviously we're looking to discard one of those, and hopefully we can draw into maybe a Drana or whatever removal spells we might need at that time, such as Murderous Rider, all 3 of, Bonecrusher Giant, just a 2 of, 1 Extinction Event for some exile removal, and 2 Storm's Wrath for 2 sweeper effects. Obviously, Storm's Wrath is nice because it hits Planeswalkers as well, and Extinction Event is kind of nice because it does have the exile upside, but sometimes it can be a little awkward with choosing odd or even. You don't always necessarily clear as much as you would like to from your opponent's side of the board, but it can still be very, very good in certain situations. So I think one copy versus 2 Storm's Wrath feels pretty solid. 3 Hagra Mauling lets us keep our land count nice and low, but also running lots of spot removal. Obviously, we can draw lots of lands with our Thrill of Possibility, Tormenting Voice, and things like that. So we definitely don't want to flood out here with this list. So Hagra Mauling, Malakir, Spikefield, they really fill that role in nicely here. 1 Liliana, Waker of the additional way to discard our bigger creatures here. Maybe we don't have those in our opening hand, but we still need to Thrill to kind of hit our land drops, or whatever the case may be. Well, we eventually draw those creatures, and then we can discard them too. Liliana will also force our opponent to discard maybe a removal spell or something on their end. And she does have the upside, of course, with her -7, being able to potentially get something back out of your graveyard as well. It's not likely, but it's possible. And of course, we are filling up our graveyard. We're casting lots of removal spells on our opponent's side, on our opponent's creatures, so we're gonna definitely getting some value off for -3 to be able to kill some pretty sizable creatures with that as well. Also running 4 copies of Terror of the Peaks. Of course, works really well in conjunction with Drana, and just a solid creature on its own. 5 mana, 5/4 flyer, of course. And sometimes you actually want to play out your Terror of the Peaks first, because your opponent will likely have removal for it, and then you can drop Drana the following turn. Hopefully they don't have removal at the time, and then when you go to combat afterwards, then Drana can bring back your Terror of the Peaks, for example, and then you can kind of go off from there. 3 Massacre Wurm. It is 6 mana, so there will be times when you actually hard cast this in certain matchups, but again, this is just another nice reanimation target. And if your opponent is running a little bit smaller creatures, this can be pretty huge. And even if not, anytime your opponent has a creature die, then that player loses 2 life. We have tons of spot removal and sweepers and things like that, so we're pretty happy with Massacre Wurm in this list. Terror of Mount Velus, pretty fantastic option here. It's pretty hard to actually hard cast this for 7 mana, but that's not really why it's here. It's a 5/5 flying double striker. When enters creatures you control, gain double strike until end of turn. So if our opponent gives us back our Terror of Mount Velus out of our graveyard, then we get to give our Drana a double strike and anything else we have in the battlefield. Void Beckoner, 8/8 Death Touch, cycling for 3, so it can put itself into the graveyard, which is pretty fantastic. And when it comes back, of course, it can also give our Drana a Death Touch counter. Then, of course, when it comes back as a 9/9, and combine that with something like a Terror of the Peaks, it's pretty fantastic if you can pull that off. Mana base here, we're running 21 lands, just trying to keep it to a bare minimum. Running 7 Swamp, 6 Mountain, 4 Temple of Malice, and 4 Savai Triome. Like I said, we definitely want to flood out There's definitely times where we can kind of draw and filter through our library with the thrill possibilities and things like that. And obviously, we're going to hit some number of lands that way, so we can cycle a Savai Triome if we already have our 5 lands, and we're pretty much set. At that point, we can kind of keep digging for more threats or removal. And of course, we're a little bit leaning towards black sources, so we want the extra swamp in here, especially so we can more likely to actually hold up Hagra Mauling as a spell, or Malakir Rebirth as a spell instead of forcing to play them on lands, but nice to have that flexibility. Mana sideboard here, we do have 2 Soul Guide Lanterns for any graveyard shenanigans on our opponent's side, 4 Agonizing Remorse for the control matchups, 4 Scorching Dragonfire for the aggro matchup, Pharika's Libation here instead of like something like a Feed the Swarm, just a little bit of enchantment hate. And also sacrifice effect, so it's basically like a soul shatter or feed the swarm in 1 for us. We don't want the feed the swarm like we lose life and things like that, but still want something that kind of fills that role. E2 Extinction gives some more single target removal, depending on if your opponent's on maybe some bigger stuff like a mono green list or something like that. And then 1 more Liliana to help us out in those control matchups. That's the list. We'll jump into some matches. Alright, Drananimator against Harley Sizzler 32. Perfect. Throw a possibility here. Probably discard the Massacre Wurm since we can cycle the Void Beckoner here. And since we don't have any turn 3 plays in hand, we probably just go Temple into Swamp into Temple. But we'll see what we hit with a throw though. Probably just hold up at instant speed. Our opponent will see our Rakdos colors and try to play around some removal potentially. Okay, Gilded Goose from our opponent. Temple, we have 4 lands now. We already have Massacre Wurm and throw possibility, so we can bottom that. Gilded Goose means probably just want some removal here. Murderous Rider or something probably be pretty good. Maybe a Storm's Wrath, depending on if, what they're up to exactly. Okay, some kind of a Rampless maybe. Just mono green ramp into Ugin. We'll fire this off at instant speed, give our opponent as little information as possible about our game plan. They're stuck on 1 land, which is interesting, and they fired off their mana source for a Gilded Goose, but then they find a land here for Lotus Cobra. Maybe they were just holding that. Okay. Doesn't like much of a jank deck to me, but we'll see what our opponent's up to exactly here. Some single target removal. Let's disable emotes, don't need all that noise. We'll hold open the cycle or the Murderous Rider here. I think it's a little late to maybe deal with Cobra. So just a, yeah, I love a Storm's Wrath here. Might get pretty out of control. Lotus Cobra is annoying, but I think we're kind of screwed either way. We do need a sweeper here. Opponent's got a very aggressive deck. Hitting us for at least 6. 7, down to 9. There's a Storm's Wrath. I think we do need to kill this Brushfire though. We're still taking 6 here. We're drawn into a Storm's Wrath, so that could be good enough, but they have lots of hasty threats, so I imagine we're pretty screwed here either way. Well, they don't have lethal there. That's good for us. But lots of hasty threats, lots of ways to generate landfall triggers. Okay, 2 cards in hand. So we want some over Scorching Dragonfires. Don't think we want Liliana, probably just the Extinction, E2 Extinction. They're not so aggressive. I don't think we need all 4 Scorching Dragonfires, but I always want a couple. We'd have the Sweepers, I think, can handle that nicely, but obviously we just need to draw a little bit better than we did there. So lead on the Triome. I'm not going to be cycling that anytime soon. And we just need some lands. We have Storm's Wrath in hand this time. So maybe we just play out this Hagra Mauling, depending on what we draw. Probably just need to stomp that now. We have Murderous Rider, so we'll go ahead and just play out the Swamp so we can cycle or kill something next turn. And we do have a Storm's Wrath as well, so we don't have to be too aggressive with our removal either. But obviously Lotus Cobra can do some pretty stupid things. Get 2 more manas here. We killed the first Cobra to slow him down a little bit, but just going off right here. And we just play the Bonecrusher. We have a Sweeper plus the Murderous Rider. So I imagine they'll have a way to deal with the Bonecrusher Giant, so we can kind of block aggressively with it, knowing we have Storm's Wrath ready to go. No surprises there. I admire them playing this in the unranked play queue. So 3 cards in hand. We're stuck on 4 lands though, unfortunately. I think we just cycle here, try to find our land drop. Not ideal, but we'll play it out. So now we have options next turn for Terror or Drana. But most likely we probably end up just having to murder something. Fabled Passage, if they want to hold it for potential landfall triggers. Well, we're on a Terror of the Peaks out there. Should have some way to deal with it. Follow it up with Drana. Sandu Mammoth, sure. We're still in 19 here, so we can take a couple hits. They could be running like an Embercleave or something, but we'll go and fire this off, see if we can get the trigger here. If we target the Mammoth, they just crack the Fabled Passage, make it a 5/5. So not really worthwhile there. We do have the Void Beckoner in our graveyard already. So this one we just hold open removal and kind of hope for the best. They get hit for what, 8? 7? Well, they haven't been playing these other cards, so I'm guessing they hold up Embercleave since they have a fairly meta deck, it seems like. So what is that? 16 off Embercleave. To no one's surprise. Well, we get a creature back onto the battlefield. with the Terror of the Peaks out. Just go face and win the game. Alright. Drananimator getting it done here against Gruul. Now that we are on the draw, probably need as much removal as we can get, so we'll go ahead and shave off one more Void Beckoner for another 8/2 extinction, and the other two more discard spells for more Dragonfires, and just keep them off their early creatures, and try to slow them down as much as possible from Lotus Cobras, Brushfires, Mammoth, whatever they try to do on the early turns. We have 8/2 extinction, Storm's Wrath for the questing beast. Man. There's 3 lands. Man, too many discard fodder. So maybe we shouldn't have kept it. Just Temple looking for lands and removal. There's a land. We're missing red, but with a Hagra Mauling, I think we'll just keep all these swamps. That's fine. And we'll just have to not die here in the first couple turns. Alright. That's not bad either. Although they haven't done anything yet. So maybe we didn't need the Dragonfire. Oh, they're missing 2 green for Questing Beast. So we just fire this off now before they untap with it. That way they don't get a float when you red mana and try to hit us that way. Got a little turn 5 Gilded Goose. We appear to be stuck on green manas here. So I think we just smell blood and kill this before they can fix it next turn. Temple of Malice, probably just more removal. Not quite what I'm looking for. So they do have some 1 toughness creatures we might care about. Yeah, they had a Questing Beast in hand, figured as much. Figured that's why they kept that hand. Just hard cast the Massacre Wurm. Gruul's going to have a hard time dealing with a 6/5. Of course, Drana can get it back, so we're happy to make this block here. Just get the beast off the board. I wonder if they kept 2 with this hand. Okay, Rebuke. And Melee. Okay. Red Cap Melee was their sideboard check against this. Not sure I agree with that move, but we got another one. They got 1 card in hand. Again, we're going to make this block. We're running them out of resources, but they could have some pretty good draws here. Obviously, Embercleave pretty much seals it here. But just have to block here. Alright, I mean it was pretty close to a Gruul meta deck, and we held our own there, but just kind of got a little bit unlucky. Probably a sketchy keep there in game 3, but obviously game 2 we did a pretty sweet job there. Alright, against Brian. Guess we can keep this. Basically 3 lands, a discard, and we have fodder, plus a Drana. What looks like a Borostus. I think we go ahead and fire off this mountain and hold up Spikefield. More tap lands. Selfless Savior. I guess we fire this off. Not sure what we did to deserve getting face-off matched up against these meta decks, but so far it appears to be a Winota list. Could just be dogs. There you go. Pack leader. Well, we got the Bonecrusher. I think we actually just play this out, and then we'll stomp now before they can do any tricks with it. So Massacre Wurm looking pretty spicy. Bazooka not doing too much on an empty board here. 4 cards in hand. Guaranteed they have some creatures up their sleeve. We'll go and hit a land drop here and just try to thrill. Discarding Massacre Wurm, I guess. Well, we don't like that. So I think we actually just... yeah, we can stomp plus throw here. Bazooka does continue to tick up, but again they have empty board, so not too worried. Start with Terror in case they have some removal. Then Drana can get back a Massacre Wurm, and if they have some creatures out, that's gonna be pretty spicy. So we're at 20, so I think we just go ahead and swing into this Bazooka and keep it in check. So we just go face. We play a land though. Let's give us more options next turn. We can play both Bonecrusher Giants. Bazooka can put these doggos out of Massacre Wurm range, but it doesn't like they're playing around that. They have the one as a 4/4. So I think they're just kind of worried about Drana. And that's the other kind of side effect of playing Terror of the Last Peaks is people are well aware of what that card is capable of, and so they will target it. So now our Drana just has a much better chance to live. And if your opponent doesn't know what Drana is capable of, well, they will find out. Let's get this Bazooka off the board before it can do any more harm. Oh! Got a 7/6 out. That's pretty spicy. Alright, down goes Bazooka. We just play the 4/3s. Now we can block these Watchdogs all day. We'll keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess if we draw a land, we can hard cast this Space Godzilla. I don't know. It doesn't matter too much at this point. Yeah. Alright. Looks like, I'm guessing they're just Boros Doggo Tribal. So we'll, especially on the draw here, want all the removal. Again, we can shave off Liliana. It's going to be hard to protect her with a potential go wide type strategy. And again, trying to cycle these is going to be a little bit slow against this matchup, so just bringing all the Spartan will, especially E2 Extinction can hit their Bazooka. Obviously it feels bad just going down to just 2 discard spells, but Terror and Drana can definitely carry the day just by themselves. Just kind of need to worry more about controlling the board, basically. Wow. Okay, our opponent wants no part of us. We're up against Shavata. Oh, first. I guess we can keep this. Have the scry here. Maybe try to find untapped land. It's not untapped. We already have a discard fodder for our thrill. And hopefully our opponent's playing creatures and we can make these worth something. It is a land, so we'll not too disappointed to see a Triome. Our opponent's doing nothing. We have a thrill here in speed. We'll just hold that up. Showing mono green so far. Those cool Vraska sleeves. Scale the heights. Okay. Selesnya. I'm guessing this is Selesnya landfall something. No lands. We'll try to hit a land drop here. Just drew 4 cards in a row and did not find another land. Okay, landfall confirmed. It's a tap land. It's something. Tormenting Voice. We have Storm's Wrath. I don't think we need to worry about this Murderous Rider. Of course, could just be the that Felidar enchantment spell here. We have the Root Razor out, but no actual payoffs for any landfall shenanigans. Okay, Scale the Heights again. Evolving Wilds. So to assume they're running Fabled Passage and Evolving Wilds. I'm not sure what they kept. Thought that was so good to have such of a slow hand. Get in there for 3. Maybe. Maybe they don't know it's still their priority. 1 white mana. What could they have here? Light of Hope. Let's see what they got. They got nothing. So they're holding priority for no reason. No protection spell, no way to pump it up. Shia is pretty nasty. Just when they thought they were cooking with fire. Throw a possibility can discard a Godzilla as well. Although if they're running just like bigger things like a Shia. I'm so confused. The opponent literally did nothing for several turns and now they have all these creatures out of nowhere where they just slow roll on us. Well, we're gonna fire off the Storm's Wrath. Just keep pulling up removal. They just want to keep slow rolling their creatures. We'll slow roll our removal and just kill everything they play until we can get our Drana down. And hopefully go from there. Go and play a land there, I think. Still have a million cards in hand. Root Grazer number 3. Scale the Heights number 3. Alright, now I guess we'll fire off Drana. Still hold open Hagra Mauling though. Oh, so your mutate list. That's cute. Well, we have no shortage of creatures for them to choose from. Massacre Wurm, Terror, or Godzilla. Well, we'll have to fire off this removal on this mutation. Go to combat, see what they give us. Massacre Wurm, we'll take it. Alright, finally putting some hurt on him. Get him down to 22. Nice thing about this deck is we can do a lot of damage in a hurry. Pacifism on Massacre Wurm is pretty annoying. So they were just holding up a bunch of removal spells. Alright, so we'd have Spikefield Hazard if for some reason they have a 1 toughness deal like that. See ya. No scoots for you. And just play out the Terror number 2. We can go off big time in next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can hardcast our Godzilla next turn. Just in case they have a sweeper, we'll go ahead and hold up. Sure, they get a 0-4 wall, but we're swinging in through the air. Skycat, go. That's it. Hardcast. 8 damage. 8 damage. Okay. Whew. That was a rough start. Opponents seem like they were really slow rolling their creatures. They did so little of those first few turns. Then they just kind of flooded the board pretty quickly there. And then they had the Starix, the Shaya. I think they're just trying to. I'm guessing they were just maybe a little bit greedy and just trying to get the landfall triggers for some of these things. Huh. So probably want at least a couple of Dragonfires. 1. Let's bring it to Extinctions. Sweepers are still pretty good here. Obviously, Scoot Swarms, etc. Massacre Wurm could be pretty insane as well. I don't think we need to overdo it though. A nice mix of sweepers and single target removal, especially if they're trying to mutate. All the lands. I mean, double Temple, and we have some removal. Storm's Wrath, that's what I'm talking about. Bonecrusher lines up decently with them as well. Probably want to get Storm's Wrath on 4, maybe. I guess we just try them here. If they go Scoot, we have the Spikefield. Calling Nostradamus, I'm coming for him. Look at that. I swear, these decks are so predictable. With a throw in hand, I think we definitely can keep that. So we have Stomp plus Throw open to us. Although with the Storm's Wrath, we don't necessarily have to fire off the Stomp necessarily. Okay, opponent looking desperate here. do have a fair number of things that are out of stomp range, so I think we can just fire this off. Alright, let's get some removal out of their hand. It's going to be exile removal, so obviously the Rebirth isn't very good, so we probably should just play that as a tap land. Shia. They gained a life. Well, Hagra Mauling. Bye-bye. Yeah, they don't have destroy removal. I mean, you could potentially save something in combat, but probably not worth it. But hard casting a Massacre Wurm is definitely worth it. Oh, come on, opponent. There you go. Get some landfall triggers for me. Untapped land off the top. Untapped land off the top. No! How could you? Well, we definitely don't want them mutating. I could triple block here. Just jump, yep. We'll hold open Thrill plus Murderous Rider. We did 2 Massacre Wurms. If they go for the mutation, obviously we'll kill the Scoot Swarm. Otherwise, we want to try to get the... Wanted to get the Massacre Wurm there, but of course they had a way to mutate. Obviously, we do want to deal with this Starix as well. Get in there for 2, you got it. Discard a Massacre Wurm. Terror is not bad. We Terror and play land. We're going to hardcast Massacre Wurm next turn. Another Scoot Swarm. Hopefully they don't have a way to mutate. Nope, still Caryatid. That's going to be a lot of triggers. And we can kill their Starix. A Massacre Wurm. 6 damage to the Starix. Massacre Wurm -2 the rest of the board. Going it down to 1. We'll hold open the swamp, I guess, for the Thrill. They have a way to sweep our board here. Obviously, we want a way to recover, but they do not. Man, super greedy, trying to mutate onto Scoot Swarm. No 20 minutes of triggers for you, my friend. Not going to happen this game. All right. So the deck is super fun. Obviously, it's not very competitive. You do need things to kind of line up a little bit in your favor. We do have some nice answers, obviously. We're not running things like Malakir Rebirth because we do have the sweepers. Since we're drawing cards with Thrill and Tormenting Voice, we tend to find our land drops pretty well, so you don't want to flood out here. So that's why we're kind of keeping it to a minimum. And of course, since we're slow playing our creatures, Drana tends to be target for removal. So, like I said, sometimes you actually want to sequence the Terror first, so then Drana can come down afterwards, and then you get your Terror back if that's the only thing in your yard for some reason. And then, of course, Murderous Rider, Bonecrusher Giant, just nice flexible cards. Either of them work decently well with Terror, of course. Void Beckoner, the fact that it can cycle to put itself in the graveyard, and then even cycle to give Drana Death Touch, since she's just a 4/4, so that can be pretty handy in certain situations. And then just the one of Liliana. Just that little bit of extra discard. I have been kind of underwhelmed with her in this list. I haven't got a ton of value, so maybe it should just be something else. I've had a couple copies, then it was down to 0. Then I was like, oh, just do one more. Because a lot of times, like, you end up taking out like some of these spells against the aggro matchups. So maybe just leaving Liliana in here as like a one of is still worth it. So you still have some ways to like discard, like Terror of Mountain Velus or things like that. But otherwise, it's it's a pretty fun list. Sideboard, we still have a lot of good answers here for a variety of matchups. And yeah, definitely not competitive. You can maybe get away with it on some of the lower ranks, but we're just a fun little reanimation list. Obviously, there's some graveyard hate in the format, and that kind of sucks. But you can still win just with like Terror of the Peaks triggers potentially if your opponent doesn't have removal. But that's probably asking too much, especially in more competitive environments or certain matchups that have lots of removal. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, make sure you jank with purpose.